Welcome, everyone. Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down because of a loved one that's battling an addiction? My name is Al Richards. I'm an internationally certified crisis and recovery coach and the founder and the host of this podcast, The Other Side of Addiction. My coaching approach uses the brain first method to guide people through their toughest challenges, helping them uncover strengths in life's unscripted moments. I believe our greatest growth often happens when we least expect it. My mission as a recovery coach is to empower individuals to find their own answers to life's toughest questions. If you or someone you care about is struggling, I'd love to connect you. Welcome. I'd love to connect with you. How's that? Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and today with my lovely friend and today's guest, Tina. Tina is a human design expert, a podcast host, author, educator, and a coach. And I love this topic that we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to be talking about the key to the kingdom. And we started this podcast late because we were so ramped up even talking about it before we started recording. So, Tina, it is such a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. So, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Al. It's really great to be here. Yeah, and we should have started recording 15 minutes ago, right? We're having a wonderful
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah. You know, when you and I met, we met at some networking groups through the chambers on a first Friday, which used to be the largest networking group in the valley before COVID hit. And you was doing some different things. If I remember right, you was doing like web design. And
Mhm.
then I didn't see you for a long time. And then you showed back up and you're like, yeah, I went into a new transition. And as soon as you started telling me about it, and this is no joke, no lie, this energy came over me going, this woman is on her game now. She is
Mm,
exactly where she is supposed to be. And it's crazy because I don't get that with everyone. Sometimes I do when they make a shift. However, I felt that with you. So, would you like to share with our listeners before we actually start talking about the kingdom, the key to the kingdom, what changed? What switched in your life to go, this is what I want to do now?
this is a good question. And so I'll try, it's a kind of a long-ish story, but I'll make it as short. I'll
Okay,
make it
you
short.
have 30 seconds. No.
Okay. I don't know if I can make it that short.
Okay, all right.
So here's the journey. So I worked in engineering for 20 years, and then I was laid off from Harley Davidson and started my own portrait photography business. I built my own website. I needed a website for my portrait photography business, so built my own website. People were asking, "Who built your website?" And I said, "I did. Will you build mine too?" Sure. So I kind of made that like a side hustle. And plus, I lived in Wisconsin at the time, and Wisconsin winters are long and brutally cold. And so there isn't a lot of photography. There's a lot of downtime during the photography industry during that season. And so I was doing website design kind of in the winter as a side hustle. And then I ended up, fast forward 10 years, 11 years, I ended up getting a divorce. I knew I didn't want to stay in Milwaukee. So I slowly was shutting down my portrait photography business and ramping up the web design so I could work remotely. And then once I did my last portrait session, I hit the road for a year and lived like a nomad and designed websites. So that gave me the freedom to go wherever I wanted to go and still earn some money. So along the way in this whole journey, I think it was like around 2018, 2017, 2018, I had some health issues and I was getting migraines 5 days a week. I had adrenal gland failure. I was in deep depression, all the things. And I went to some doctors and they couldn't find any answers. And they wanted to write a prescription for me, mainly for the migraines that just say, take one of these when you feel a migraine coming on. And I was not happy with that answer. I was not happy with that remedy. So I threw the prescription in the garbage. And I called, at that time I was at part of BNI networking and there was a chiropractor in the group and I called him, said, Taylor, Dr. Taylor, can you help me with these migraines? And he said, yes. And so I started a program with him, really we really dove in to try to figure out what was happening. While we were doing that, I was diving down the rabbit hole of the internet and all things health and wellness. and learned more about nutrition. I was already eating pretty healthy, but I learned more at a deeper level about the microbiome and all, all of those sorts of things. So I started along with a chiropractic regimen. I went on like I just ripped the Band-Aid off and like started this health, this eating, this new healthy way of eating. Just like I'm doing it, that's it. I cut out all sugars, dairy, everything, meat. I cut everything out. I just ripped the Band-Aid off and did it. And within 2 weeks, my migraines were gone. My depression was lifting. Within 3 weeks, I had carpal tunnel in my arm from holding my camera was like about 6 to 8 pounds, depending on the size of the lens that I had on there. So I was getting some carpal tunnel. That started to go away. My fatigue went away, was going away. My depression was lifting, all of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm onto something here. So I kept diving down the internet and found more about energy healing. And then I came across human design and gene keys and astrology and all that stuff. And human design really like when I ran my human design chart, and so you use your birthday, birth time, and birth location, and you put that into what's called a body graph system. And then it gives you a body, it's called a body graph. It's a chart, a human design chart, and it looks sort of like a body. It's hard to explain visually what it looks like through words, but it has 9 big shapes on it, and then some lines connecting the shapes that are called channels. And then it has 64 gates, and then there's 2 columns, one on either side, with some numbers on it, and those are gate numbers. So when I came across human design, I started diving into it. It was so validating into who I am as a person. And I realized in that moment that there are things that we know about ourselves that we dismiss because of various reasons, whether it's societal conditioning, words that somebody said to you 25 years ago, 10 years ago, beliefs that are carried through your genetics, um, messages that we get in the media. We get so much external messaging coming toward us. And then over the years, we build this protective personality.
Mm,
And in that protective personality, we get off course from who we are in our purest natural state as a human being. And when I looked at my human design chart, I was like, oh my gosh, I've known this my whole life. And I've either stepped away from what I've known about myself and who I am to protect myself, or because I was too afraid to actually step into it. I didn't have the courage to step into it for various reasons. And so it was just so validating, and I just fell in love with it in that moment. And then I started running charts for family and friends. And I was just having so much fun with it. Well, that was during the time that I was kind of like, I was, I had my portrait photography business, and I was doing branding photography. And so I started running charts for my clients, because, I was looking, there's a lot we can look in the human design chart. We can find messaging, and we can build a business plan based on your energy type. There's some fun things that you can look at your money line and your leadership, the way you lead. So there's some fun stuff in there that we can look at for business, or even for your job if you're, working in corporate or anywhere that you work. Different ways of communicating and how you relate to others. There's so many things in the chart. So I started running it with my branding clients. Then, like I said, I had shut down my photography business and I lived like a nomad for a year. And in that year, I took time off. That was after my divorce, and I was working with I call him a master teacher because he does so many things and such powerful things. I can't think of a better name than master teacher. So I was
okay.
working with a master teacher for a year. And in that time, I kind of like, I didn't go online. I barely went online. I barely read books. I was just like in my own space, doing my own thing, finding joy and finding myself again. And so human design and all the things, just I kind of left all that behind. And I just kind of lived life for a whole year. And then when I came back and I landed in Salt Lake City, and I got an apartment, and I started to build my life here again. I started networking again and building the website business. I brought the human design back in. And when I looked at it from this other perspective, like I had found it in this place where I was really sick. And then when it came back into my life, I was in this healthier state. And when I looked at it from this other perspective, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like just a few things in here. Like if we look at just a couple things and just focus on that, it'll unwind all kinds of stuff in our lives. And
Wow.
it will help fast track the healing process. And then I was like, I got to bring this back in again to my business. And so I started running charts for my website design clients because we have to talk about branding and all that stuff. So again, I was running charts for them. And then I was like, you know what? I just want to do human design. And like you said, Alan, thank you for saying that, that you felt like I found my lane, because that's what I felt like too.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the human design.
Yeah, because I was shocked when I saw you come back to First Fridays and gosh, really, I think even before I asked what you did, I think I asked if you brought your 1971 Plymouth.
My CUDA.
Which you're like, yeah, it's out in the parking lot. I had to run over there and look outside like a little boy
Yeah.
at Christmas. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I felt that. When you said that you had changed things up, that feeling just came over me because I think it was probably a year before I even saw you the first time again after you had left a little bit that I had found my why, right?
Yes,
My energy had completely shifted as well and
I
which
saw that in
direction
you.
that I was going. And it's kind of crazy that when you know somebody who has changed their life or found whatever it is they're going after, or you just meet somebody for the first time, I mean, for those who don't believe that there's such thing as a positive energy or feeling other people's energy, I feel sorry for you, really, because it is out there. And when you both have that, it's 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 not like the physical type of attraction. It's just that energy attraction, right? It's just like boom. You got two powerhouses right there, whatever it is that they're doing, and you can just feel it. It just
Yeah.
resonates from you.
It's like expanding, energizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that contracted. There's no protect, you don't bring your protection out, none of that. It's just, you can show up as yourself. It feels good.
Oh, it does, and the day that I finally opened up and started sharing my story, which was January of 2023, a whole
Yeah.
year's gone by now. That changed my life so quickly. And it's just what you just said. It opened me up so much. It just expanded so much to where I shared with somebody who called me that was some struggling with some stuff and they were asking for some suggestions and I was letting them know what somebody told me. It's like get it out there, open it up. Because once you do, no one can hold that carrot over your head again, ever.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then that way you're going to find that you're going to get more support by letting it out than you would if you held it in and someone heard it from somebody else. Because people are like, oh my gosh, I did not know. So they have more of that empathy, right? It's just
That's
how
so
us
true.
humans seem to work, right? If we hear it from someone else, it's, oh, you're damned. But if you say it yourself, it's like, oh my gosh, come over here. Let me give you a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like we want to protect each other, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, instinctively, we want to protect each other, right? And so,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and you're right. And there's something, I think when it comes from you, there's no victim energy around it, or you own it. You're just owning who you are, and people respect that.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, and people respect that. And also, when you're just owning who you are and you're in that authentic, or I like to use authentic has been so overused in the past few years. I'm starting to use the word pure and
I love
natural,
it.
like
Okay.
the natural human or your naturalness, who you naturally are. When you're in that natural state, it allows those around, it's like you're giving the gift to the people around you to be themselves as well. And I think that's the greatest gift you can give anybody, right? And then people just feel so, like you said, there's an energy, and whether you can feel it or whether you know it or not, you can still feel it. It's unconscious. And you
Yeah.
can feel that energy, that loving energy of a person who's in their natural state. You can feel it. And and when you're in that space, it feels good. And you know that it's safe to be who you are too. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said. And I still, I'm still growing into being vulnerable like that. I'm vulnerable. I keep getting more and more vulnerable as time goes on. But yeah, it's truly a gift. It really is. It's a gift to give to yourself, and it's a gift for others, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and opening up to be vulnerable, really, I don't want to say it's tough, but it is hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because again, we have been programmed by outside society. We can't show our feelings. We can't show weakness. We can't show anger. We can't show sadness. We can't show we're depressed. We're just supposed to be happy sons of bitches every single freaking day. And it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. And
No,
I think so many of us lie to ourselves. I did. And I'm just saying this out of my
I
own
did.
experience, right? I lied to myself of what you said earlier about protecting ourselves. And I don't know how much it is for guys. I think it is just as much for guys as it is for women because you work with a lot of women, right? That's
Mhm.
basically who you work mostly with is women. And
Yeah.
I went to a men's group quite a few years ago, and the guys that was in this group were some were very, very successful businessmen. Some had very, very good marriages, but yet they were lonely. Others were single, like myself, and couldn't stand it. There was others who was single and loved it because they got to go out and do what they want to do. But yet you hear people talk about their stories and you're going, that's what they're telling themselves
Right.
because it's not really true. It's
Right.
not really true what they're saying. And it's the first time I had been in a room of so many men that were literally crying.
Yeah.
And I opened up a couple times and was just crying and sobbing because of where my life was at the time. And I think we find ourselves not wanting to be vulnerable because we're going to tell ourselves, I got a divorce. I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. I got myself. I'm independent. I'm strong. I got my girlfriends. I got my kids. I got this. I got that. But really, are you
Yeah.
coming home at night and sitting on a couch and maybe your kids just left or grandkids just left or family or whatever? And you're going, gosh, it sure would be nice if I had somebody here that I could just talk to or cuddle with, and I think what with what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're more of a professional in this than I am. Do you think that is the case? Because we're talking about the key to the kingdom. How can we get that key to the kingdom when we're literally trying to fool our own selves to get other people to see somebody we're really not?
Yeah. There's so many layers to that. What to this to this there yeah. We
So
can start
it's a
feeling
Shrek.
start unpacking start unpacking this. There's a lot to it. Yes, we tend to act as a character, right, in our own lives. We create a character and I, it's yeah, for all those it's ego, it's pride, it's protection from big T trauma, small T trauma, all that stuff, right? I was bullied as a kid, and my family life was a bit toxic, and so I turned into a people pleaser and smiled all the time and pretended everything was okay because I didn't want to make any waves. If I it was safe for me to be quiet and not seen at home. And then when I take that into adulthood, now that's not serving me anymore, right? It may have been safe for me to behave like that in my family home, but once I leave the home, now we carry all that stuff with us and it no longer serves us. Me being a people pleaser and not using my voice led me into some very horrific relationships with men and friendships. And I had a hard time relating even with coworkers and family. And, I'm still working through, I still work, things still come up. Even at this age, it's crazy how long we hold things in our bodies. So I'm still a work in progress. We all are. And none of us are perfect. And it's a journey. It's a journey until we die, right? And so in that, yeah, we create these characters. And the best example, I was at a women's retreat this last summer and we were in a circle, just as you were talking about the men's circle and the vulnerability and the men crying. It's the same thing where I'm in this women's circle in this beautiful property in California in Mill Creek. And we're sitting in this circle and we're talking about the most vulnerable things, the things that we kept hidden our whole lives because we think people are going to look at us different if they know about it. And I'm totally going to cry talking about this. And we're sharing, and I'm sitting there in that moment, and I was like, I was taken back to when I lived in a suburb. Now, I'm not complaining about any of this. I'm not complaining about my life at all. Um, and I realized like when I was married and living on a cul-de-sac and living this life, I wasn't happy. And there was a lot of guilt around why am I not happy? People want to live, people would love to live this life. And there was a lot of guilt around that. So that's another way that we can shame ourselves, right? But I'm sitting in this women's circle and I was brought back to when I lived on the cul-de-sac and I was like, man, all those years, the women that I was friends with, we would just show up and pretend that everything was okay. And it was almost like this competition of whose life is better and who's doing it was either a competition of who's doing better or if you're in a bad place, their bad is worse. you
Okay.
know? And it didn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me. I'm like, why can't we just be real with each other? I never understood. I'm like, this is so crazy. It takes so much more energy to pretend to be something that you're not than to just show up as who you are, right? I'm sitting in this women's circle and I was like, man, this would be so beautiful if we all walked around like this 24/7, 365. If we all just were in our natural state, showing up exactly who we are, just speaking our truth, being vulnerable, being loving, being open to receive love, right? Wouldn't that be a beautiful world that we lived in, And I was thinking that, um, and I think we're getting there little by little, one person at a time, one layer at a time. We're getting there, and and in all of this, in this whole spiritual journey of mine, as we started off with the theme of the key to the kingdom as I began, it started with the chiropractor and eating healthier. And I've always exercised my whole life. I always spent time in nature. Um, just unconsciously, I knew that that was the place I needed to be. And through all of that, I realized like the more you have to take care of your human body. Yes, there's this spirituality and the connection to the divine and the other realms. And that is important. And also, we're human beings living a biological human experience. And so we have to take care of our bodies. Our bodies, when I was at that retreat and we were doing some breath work meditation and it came through loud and clear. You are the temple. You are the temple was the message that I got. And it wasn't just for me. That's for each and every one of us, right? You are the temple, Al. You are the temple. I am the temple. Each one of us is the temple. And we need to take care of our temple um, the best that we can. No, we live in a very toxic world, right? But we can use water filters, we can eat organic, we can, you know, wash our food, eat clean, eat real food instead of packaged food. We can meditate, however that looks like for each one of us meditates differently, right? I like dynamic meditation. Some people like to sit quietly. I can't do that for very long, but man, when I'm moving my body, it really brings me into a flow state. And reading, listening to high frequency music instead of the lower frequency, right? The fabrics of our clothes too are a frequency. I just read an article a couple months ago that polyester is at 60 hertz, I want to say. I could be, don't fact check me, people, because I don't know if I have these,
Wow.
if I'm remembering correctly. So look this up for yourselves. I think cotton is at 198 or 100 and something, and then which is the same as our bodies. And then I could be wrong. Like I said, look this up. Polyester is at a 60, which is lower frequency. And a lot of our clothes are mixed with polyester now, right? Wool and linen are at 5,000. So we can wear clothing that, is at a resonant frequency with our bodies. There's all kinds of things that we can do. And of course, we can't get away from everything because the air quality and, you know, all of these things. But when you take care of your mind, your body, and your spirit. So, mind, read, meditate, journal, create, art, draw, whatever it is for you. Each person is different. Working with wood, some people like to work with wood. Some people like to knit. Some people love to draw or paint on rocks,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Some people like to paint furniture. Whatever that is, like that mind to get your mind in a state of flow. And then your body, take care of your body by eating healthy and exercise. And then your spirit, do things that bring you joy. This is where all of us adults fall short,
Yes.
right?
Agreed.
Play. Because life doesn't need to be so serious. Yes, we can take our jobs seriously. We can take our careers, our businesses seriously. And also, we can have fun and not take ourselves so seriously. And play is the thing that we forget. And it's going for a hike with a friend and laughing and giggling along the way, going to a comedy show, driving a CUDA across the United States brought me some great joy. Whatever it is for you, like, and we always, we can get so caught up in our lives. We're so busy with all the things, and the play, it gets tossed to the wayside, right? That's the first thing to go. And so you have grandkids, watch the kids know the way,
Oh, hell yes, they do.
right? They
Yeah,
know the way.
absolutely. Yeah.
So do what the kids do. Be in a state of wonderment and curiosity, right? I look at everything as a science experiment. And even like for your listeners who are, thinking, maybe one of your listeners has been thinking like, I've been wanting to eat healthy for 3 years now, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but I really want to. What I always enter into these things like, I'm going to do a science experiment and this is going to be really fun. And instead of like, oh, I'm going to start this new diet and I have to take away sugar and I'm really going to miss cake and I'm really going to miss cookies, I look at it like, I'm like going to put my lab coat on. I'm going to start a science experiment. I'm going to take sugar and dairy and meat out of my diet for 30 days and I'm going to see what happens. I'm
Yeah.
just going to see how I feel. And then you'll feel healthier. And then what I did just to test, after 30 days, I ate a piece of cake and then I could feel what it felt like in my body to eat that piece of cake. I could feel what was happening in my body. I had a headache. I had a migraine the next day. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, so sugar is causing migraines. That's interesting. Okay, so I'm not going to eat sugar now. And then a couple days later, I thought, I'm going to eat a piece of cheese because, I lived in Wisconsin and we eat our cheese, right? And I did not want to give up my cheese, I'll tell you what. And so,
I'm with you on that one. It's hard for
yeah.
me to do the cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, it's delicious. And so a couple days later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna eat a piece of cheese and see what happens. So I ate a piece of cheese, and within 20 minutes, all I wanted to do, I was so fatigued, all I wanted to do was sleep. And I
Wow.
thought, oh my gosh, all these years I was dealing with or living with fatigue, and all I had to do was quit eating cheese, get dairy out of my life. Wow, that's interesting. And then so I just for a whole entire year after that, I was so fascinated by this. The whole year, I didn't eat any sugar or dairy. I brought in salmon. I started to eat a piece of salmon once in a while and some chicken once in a while. Um, but I didn't even eat condiments because condiments have sugar in them for a whole year because I thought I want to see what happens. Because I figured at that point I was in my mid 40s. So I thought there's probably got to be a lot of toxin buildup in my body over these decades. So I'm going to do this for a whole year and just detox my whole entire system and see how I feel after that. And I'll tell you what, it restarted a lot. Now I can indulge and eat pizza once in a while, and I'll eat some cake and cookies once in a while. And it doesn't affect me like it did before because I don't have that high level of toxicity in my body anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to show again, it's treating our bodies as the temple, right? I believe it
Yeah.
even says that in the Bible,
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
our bodies are the temple
Yes.
and taken care of it. And however, there's the one thing though for this key to the kingdom that I believe the majority of us leave out, and it's this up here,
Yeah.
right? Because one thing I have learned this past year a lot, because of a lot of friends who are in the health stuff, majority of them all women who have taught me more about brain health. And even my coaching is all talking about the brain health, right? How the
Yes.
brain first comes approach. And it's crazy because we you hear people push exercise, you got to exercise, you got to exercise, you got to stay physical fit, you got to do this, you got to do that, when really our gut and our brain,
They're
that's
leading.
that's the beginning of it all. And
Yep.
some people say our gut is actually the first brain and our brain
Yes.
is the second brain,
Yep.
because our gut controls so much of our health. And
Yeah.
I believe that when we start experimenting like what you're talking about, and I love your example of it, right? Be that science project on your own self.
Yeah.
Try
It
things because
takes the
so many
pressure
people,
off.
yeah, so many people are afraid of wanting to go a different direction. When I lost my job of 24 years, I didn't know where to start to rebuild myself as a human,
Hmm.
to be a good person. I had no clue where to start. The only thing that I knew to go to was fitness because I always had that in my life until that last past 8 years. I was too busy snorting cocaine and drinking on the weekends. No wonder I weighed 198 pounds. No wonder I was tired all the time. And of course, I thought it was because I was working 13, 14 hours a day. And then
Hmm.
of course I'm partying and staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on the weekends, you know. But
Yeah.
the experiment of just starting somewhere, just trying something and seeing and enjoying that journey. That's the whole part of it. And you talked about watching the kids. I saw a picture my daughter took of our very first granddaughter, and they were living in Bountiful at the time, and it was snowing. And my daughter took a picture of my granddaughter up against the sliding glass, and she's just like this because
Hmm.
she's
Looking
seeing
around.
snow for the very first time in her life. And to
Wow.
see the look on that little girl's face. And when I saw that, I'm going, man, that was probably fascinating to me too, the first time I saw snow. I just
Yeah.
don't remember it.
Yeah.
Why am I not fascinated with it anymore?
Yeah.
Why have I let that go? And it's because I got to pay this bill. I got to go here. I got to do this. I don't want someone to think I'm a baby or we've got all this garbage we're throwing in our heads instead of enjoying life. And I wanted to throw this out there with everything that you just said. When you're talking about that time in the cul-de-sac, how many good things probably passed through your life that you didn't even see that was in front of you because you were too busy protecting
Oh gosh,
what you had at time? Because you
so
and
much.
and and I think it's easy to throw red flags up, right? If even if you did see it, you're like, oh no, 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 no. I can't have this in my life because this could harm me here, or Susie down the street may look at me totally different, right? Or this may affect my life where I don't want to go, even when you don't even effing know where the hell it's going to
No,
take you.
no. And there's so many things I want I want to comment on. We have so many things. This is so fun. Yeah, so I love that you brought that up because um at that time, you're right. I mean, there was some unconscious things happening and some conscious things happening. right? So there's unconscious behavioral patterns and habits that we bring with us from childhood. They say from birth to 7 is you're laying the foundation from life, and then 7 to 13, there's a lot that happens, like you're learning relational wise as you're going into school. And, so through these different stages of lives, different things are happening in our environment. And then we're building behavioral and habit patterns and beliefs around all of that we carry into adulthood. So some of the stuff that I was experiencing was unconscious, some of it was conscious, right? And so some of the protection, like the people pleasing and these things, I didn't understand that. I kept saying, so what was happening was like I was trying to fit in to this world, and it was working but not really working, and it wasn't like meshing, right? I could feel like there wasn't this resonance, like you and I sit down, we have coffee, we can talk for hours, right? There's this resonance, there's this like frequency match, right?
Hmm.
And there was like I in the cul-de-sac lifetime, I felt like I was just bumping up against things and like, why am I not fitting in here? What is going on? So I thought it was me. I thought it was me. So maybe I'll try to be more quiet. Maybe I'll try to, um, dress more, like, I don't even know, like, just make sure I'm like covered up, or just make sure I look presentable per what other people perceive as presentable. I'll
Okay.
word it that way. Um, and then just, like, um, maybe I'll like bring my energy in, I'll like make myself smaller. Maybe I like showed up too big, or I spoke too loud or something like that. I would try to like figure it out in my head how I could change to fit in. When what in a healthy body, a healthy person would think, these are my people. I don't need to make myself smaller. I don't need to change anything. I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to speak as loud as I want to speak or as quiet as I want to speak. I'm going to stay quiet if I want. I'm going to talk if I want. I'm just going to show up and be me. And I'll find my people. I'll be magnetized to my people, and my people will be magnetized to me. That's in the healthy state. But I didn't know that. And so there was a lot that aspect was unconscious. The conscious stuff came in, like I was saying before, like something didn't feel right. And then, I was saying, and I was making excuses, I was justifying it. But there are people in the world who would love to have this lifestyle. Why am I complaining about it? So suck it up, Tina. You live a good life. Let's just get on with it. Get out of your head. Let's get on with your day, right? So that's conscious. And then um, and then something else would come up, and I would tell myself, well, it isn't that bad. Come on, you got this. So I give myself little pep talks along the way. And it was either justifying it or shaming myself, or you know what I mean? And I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't know any better. And that's the thing, that for all the listeners, we are only doing our best with what we know in the moment. And I didn't know any better. But then when I did know better and I started to make changes and started healing, it started with the health, it started with eating better, and it's with some energy work. I started learning about Reiki and these energy healing modalities, and I went down that route when I started to like understand how trauma is held in the body. And then, like you said, with the mind, the microbiome and the brain, also I believe the mind is the body. Like there's the brain, the mental part, but the mind, I feel like, is the body. When there's a mind, mental, a heart, when there's coherence with the heart and the brain, or the heart and the mind, I feel like that's when we're really in a healthier state. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that way better than I ever will be able to. But I can't articulate it because I'm not a scientist or a doctor, so I'm not even going to try to. I just have experienced that coming home. I experienced that coherence. I'm in that place now. Not that my journey's over. We're on the journey till we die, but I've experienced what that feels like now. So I can only explain it from my experience. not from a scientific perspective. But when you start to take care of yourself from a loving place, instead of, and it has, there's a difference. Now we can start to exercise and eat healthy and lose weight and do these things from ego, pride. I want to look better from a surface level. Just want to look better kind of place, or we can do it from an I love myself place. And when you do it from an I love myself place, I'm eating a salad because I love myself. I'm eating um, a smoothie for breakfast because I love myself. I'm taking care of this temple. When you do that from that space, your thoughts automatically start to shift to a more positive state, and your mind and your heart start to come into coherence naturally.
Yeah.
That's what I found. I didn't have to do, I mean, affirmations are great, and I still do them, once in a while. I'll like come across a little post-it note that I wrote something on, and I'll still say affirmations, but I don't rely on them to make the change because it's a holistic experiment, right? So you have to come at it from a holistic approach. And so when you doing these, taking care of your body from a loving, like from an I love you place, everything just starts to shift naturally. You start to make different choices. You start to, you can communicate better. Your relationships get better. You're not coming from this, instead of maybe being defensive, it when you're in a healthier state, it'll give you this, you'll take a moment to be like, do I need to fight back right now? Or wait a second, maybe this is more about me than them.
Yeah.
You'll just start to look at things a little differently. And then you'll start to look at yourself a little differently too, right? I used that example before where when I was more in an unhealthy state, I would look at how I needed to change to fit into things. When you're in a healthier state, there's self-reflection from what part am I playing in this? It's not like how do I need to change? Maybe there is, if once you I ask myself the question like what part am I playing in this? It brings awareness to the part that I'm playing. And then is this something that I need to change? Is this something the other person needs to change? Or is this something we need to change together?
I love that you brought that up, Tina. I mean, seriously, everything you just shared my version is spot on, right? It's just how I see it as well. And this is something in about the last 3 or 4 months. It's something I've been working on for a lot longer. However, it's like that saying that the teacher will appear when the student is ready,
Mm.
and I believe I finally got to that ready point because there's been some things that's been happening in my life. And for the first frickin' time, I stopped myself to where I'm allowing my energy, my happiness to be taken away from somebody else. I'm giving it to them. I'm allowing them to take something that means a lot to me. And again, throwing that victim mentality, that Cartman's triangle, right? The bottom triangle where we play the victim, the persecutor, and oh my gosh, what's the other one? The victim, the persecutor. For some reason, I cannot remember the other one.
I
But
can't
anyway,
either right now, but I know what you're talking about.
okay, yeah. So I finally stopped myself, and as a matter of fact, I was on the phone with one of my really good friends, and he and I have some pretty strong conversations on some stuff, and we're the type of friends that we can throw the shit at each other, but it's out of love, right? It's like, hey, and all of a sudden when I was talking to him, I went, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "What? What, bro?" And I'm like, what is my lesson on this? What did I do? See, what is it that I'm putting everything on this person, but however, I'm in this too. I'm in the same swimming pool. So what is it that I'm doing? Am
Yeah,
I bringing one floaty or two floaties or basically none and I'm sinking to the bottom? And
yeah,
really got me thinking. And I tell you what, that opened my vision so wide to where it's been like I think God's testing. It's like he's throwing everything at me at once. It's like dodgeball as a kid. You got those rubber balls coming at you in every direction.
Love that.
You're trying not to get hit, right?
Dodgeball.
And you're
I
trying to
love
guard
that.
that pin at the same time, And and I'm going, oh my gosh. It just opened me up so much more, going, what part am I playing in all this?
Yeah.
Pointing that damn finger. I need to start pointing the finger at me and going, what can I do better at this to where I'm not giving my energy away? And I think with what you've been sharing throughout this whole show, actually, for the key to the kingdom is also, why are we so quick, especially, I mean, you've talked about having bad relationships, right? And I've
Yeah.
had bad relationships as well. And we have a way of protecting ourselves because of all the stuff that we've done. Then we finally have somebody that treats us with love and respect, and we're like, don't know what to do with it. So we're like, you know what? I don't know what to do with this. So I got to go find somebody that treats me like shit, even though I don't want it, because I know how to protect myself from it. So we're always running away, running away, when really we need to stop and sit and go, what can I do? What's my part in this? Do I stick around just to see where it's going? Because I could be throwing something really good away in my life, whether it's an individual, a job, whatever it may be. I could be throwing it away because, again, I'm too busy playing that victim, and I'm going to protect myself and tell myself I'm happy as hell, whether I hate my job, whether I cannot stand the relationship, or whether I just met somebody and now all of a sudden I think they're trash because of something they said.
Yeah.
And we run away from things because I think this is where a lot of our growth is. And
Yeah, it
unless
is.
I'm mistaken, right?
No, it is. You're right. And
Because
it
it's
takes
been my growth.
mine too, and I'm still in it with
Yeah.
relationships still. Um, and it takes courage and communication to move through that because what's your nervous system, your body is in the habit of running, right? Your body's in the habit of wherever you are. Let's stick with, your example of this person in a relationship. Let's say I meet someone and this person isn't ready to receive love yet, right? And so the only way to move through that is to step into the discomfort. And most people would rather stay in comfort, even though it's not for their highest potential, because they don't want to feel the feelings of discomfort.
Yeah.
Knowing, and we all know that the discomfort isn't going to last, right? We can use the example of speaking because that's a pretty everyone has probably experienced this sometime in their life at different levels, right? Where you need to get up in front of the class and give a speech, or get up and get up in front of your peers at work, right, and give a speech. Some people just get up and they can do it. Most of us are afraid, right? And we feel a lot of fear and we don't want to do it. But we still, let's say your boss is like, you have to give this presentation, right? You have no choice. No matter how scared you are, you have no choice and you have to give that presentation. So you're probably going to feel a lot of discomfort coming into that day. You're going to feel really afraid 10 seconds before it and probably be shaking and sweating for the first 5 minutes of the presentation. But then as the presentation goes on, you feel less and less discomfort. And when it's over, you feel good, right?
Mm.
So the discomfort doesn't last, as also the joy doesn't last. So we need to enjoy the joy, enjoy the joy. I just wanted to throw that in there too,
Yeah.
because we also forget that. But for the relationship example, so you have to move through the discomfort in order to get to the other side. And a lot of people don't want to feel those feelings because a lot of emotions come up. There's chemicals running through the body that you're not used to. There's a lot of things happening biologically, right? And consciously. There's a lot of things happening as you're moving into that space. And so some people will come forward and meet you, and then they can't hold the energy, so they go back. And then they'll come forward and meet you, and then they can't hold it, so they go back. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And so what what happens, so it takes two people to work through this in relationship, right? If it's a monogamous relationship, it takes two people. It takes the person who's there with the open heart to hold the loving space in the container with patience for this person to move through the discomfort and open up to receiving and holding the energy. And so if the person keeps running away, if they, if they stay away, and it's clear that they're not gonna, come to this space, then the person holding the space, you'll have to, use your own discernment on how long you want to be patient. But it takes two people and it takes communication. It takes communication, right? To be like, okay, I see what's happening here. Do you see what's happening here?
Yeah.
And if they don't, bring the awareness. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they have no idea. So bring the awareness like, hey, I see you're not, how can I help you be open to receiving love? What can I do for you so you feel safe and loved and valued in this relationship? How can I help you? How can I support you? And they will tell you and then do that in the way that they ask. The other thing that happens is the person will tell you, and then you'll use, and I'm not saying but you'll use your like, oh, she means this, or
Yeah.
oh, no, she doesn't really want that. She wants this. No. If she says this, or he or she says this is what I need to feel safe, then that's what they need to feel safe. End of story, period, bottom line. And in that way, you can ask them, well, how, if the person says, well, I need to hear I need to hear words of validation, or not words of validation, but I need to hear that you want me around. Let's just say that. Because a lot of people will run because it's, maybe out of unworthiness, or maybe they've been rejected in the past, or maybe they've been abandoned in the past. And so they feel unworthy coming into this space. They don't know if they're worthy of being here and sustaining this. And so if you tell them, I love spending time with you. I love having you by my side. I love you. I love being in this relationship with you. That may or may not be enough for them. And they'll let you know, like, well, I need to hear these words specifically, whatever that is, then say those words. And that's it. And then keep the communication open. So then what happens then is one person is creating this safe space for the other person to unwind all the energy knots around all the past trauma that they've experienced. And they're also allowing their nervous system to understand your nervous system is keeping you safe always, right? And
Mhm.
so when you move from comfort to discomfort, your nervous system is like, whoa, we're going to die. And so when you have to like put yourself into a safe situation in order for your nervous system to recalibrate to understand that you're not going to die. And so when this person is holding a safe space for you, then you're learning like, oh, this is safe. I can break down some walls around my heart. I can relax into this a little bit, and I don't need to run. I don't need to, I'll let him or her, um, I'll allow myself to feel love, maybe for 30 seconds today, whatever it is, because it feels safe. I feel okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
eventually the walls come down and they feel safer and safer and safer in that environment, and they'll open more and more and more. Now, some people, but the person has to be consciously aware of it to allow themselves to open up like that. And some people just aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you put it, we find comfort in discomfort.
Yeah.
I bet you the majority of society is doing that
Yeah.
right now.
It does not feel good. When I left my marriage, um, we came to a mutual breaking point, and we lovingly disconnected from each other. There was no hatred, no fighting, no nothing. We lovingly like stepped away from each other, and it's still, when I actually left my house, I checked into an Airbnb and I called my cousin, or he actually, I think he called me. I went for a walk, and he called me, and I was just bawling my eyes out. My whole body, like my heart was aching. I felt like adrenaline. You know what I mean? Like the whole,
Yeah.
like all the pain. I was feeling all of it. And he said to me, he goes, you know what you're feeling what you're feeling right now? And I said, yeah. He goes, that's why most people stay because people don't want to feel that.
Mm, that is so well put. As you're sharing this, Tina, I'm picturing individuals who I've had on the show who've told their stories of the day they decided to come clean, whether it was off alcohol or drugs or porn or sex or eating or gambling, whatever it may be, and how discomforting it was. I've heard some people say, yeah, it just felt like I just had spiders crawling all over, like my skin was moving, and I would be hot and then I'd be cold, and I was nervous and I was anxious, and again, it's that discomfort. Once they worked through that and they got themselves through that with the help of a higher power, other individuals, that comfortable feeling that they were looking for comes over them, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they become this whole new person. And you are 100% right about how you say that, we're comfortable in the discomfort because we don't want to feel these things. I used to teach at a fitness place here in West Jordan, and we were talking about proper eating and nutrition like that. And, one of the individuals raised their hand. He's like, so you're telling me I cannot have nachos and hamburgers and pizza and fries smothered in chili and stuff like this ever again? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm telling you.
Mm,
If that's what you enjoy, enjoy it.
yeah.
Well, you don't
Moderation.
destroy, yeah, you don't have to destroy your whole life, right? In moderation, you do it in moderation. And I've shared the story that when I was preparing for my bodybuilding competition, I was on a strict diet for about a month and a half to prepare how my physique for what it needed to look like to hopefully place and win something. And I was on this strict diet Monday through Saturday. I followed it to the
Mm,
T. Now, when Sunday came,
yeah.
I was nachos, hamburgers, pizza.
Yeah.
I'd sit down and eat a whole freaking quart of ice cream in one sitting. I didn't give a shit,
Yeah, I love
And,
that. Give yourself a
and
cheat day.
this quart, just pile all this junk food on and enjoy it, because I got to reward myself as a human too, right? I'm going to say, hey, I'm putting in all this effort. I got to reward myself here and there,
Yeah.
But again, it's not falling into that trap and not being so quick to run away from that discomfort. Because what you shared about speaking, I won an award in West Jordan back when I was working with the chamber. It was the very, very first Craig Deering, legendary Craig Deering Award. And it was
Mm,
for all the service I was putting into the community and volunteer work. And it was an honor to win the very, very first one. And I had to get up and talk. And I remember standing up at the podium, and it was at Archibald's, or not Archibald's, but the meeting place down here at Gardner Village. And there's over 100 people out in the audience. And I remember I could feel something hitting my legs as I was up there speaking. And at one time, I just happened to glance down to look at my notes, and it was my pant legs hitting my legs because I was shaking so bad. I
wonder.
was freaking nervous up there. And now
Yeah.
here I am speaking in front of 100+ people,
Yeah.
and
That's
I'm
so amazing.
excited to do it every single freaking time. The high that I get from it, the energy I get from it. And I can't wait till it's 3 or 4 or 500 or 1,000 people. I
10,000.
yeah. So again, it's you've got to, I don't know if got is the right word. I'm just saying what you said. Give yourself that chance to step into
There,
that comfortableness, right?
that's I love that you just sorry, I totally interrupted you, but
No, that's fine.
I love that you said that give yourself the chance. That's perfect. That's the perfect way. Invite yourself into the opportunity of the experiment, right? Just to
Yeah.
see, can I do this? Especially if something's calling for you, especially if there's something like if you have this in your head, like using your voice, having a platform, speaking, if it's calling to you, just step into it and see what happens. That's been a big one for me too, is speaking and using my voice. I was so trained to not use my voice that coming around to using my voice, man, that's been a journey. And one I keep stepping into because it's a calling, right? And I love that you said that. Give yourself a chance. I'm gonna keep that one. Um, I'm gonna write that on my wall, I think. And then also I like what you said too about celebration. I don't know if you use the word celebration, but celebrate, we need to celebrate ourselves, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, and so maybe after every chance you give yourself, celebrate. When you move through something, celebrate, or every 90 days, celebrate, every 6 months, celebrate. But we need, yeah, celebrate and play and
Well, well,
and be
what
present too.
be present, absolutely. And again, to go back to the celebrating, you know, as a kid, I played baseball. And when we had a really good game, or if I personally had a really good game, my parents would take me out, right? And I could always look forward to getting something. Did we freeze up? I
Still
think
hear you.
okay,
Oh, there
there
you
you go.
are.
You're
Yeah.
back. So and as a child, if we know we're going to get a reward, right? At the end of something, how good does that make us feel? Now, as an adult, we pull away from that again, right? Because life starts taking us away from all that. And really, again, the key to the kingdom too, we have to celebrate our own little wins. And it doesn't matter how freaking big it is. You can celebrate the most smallest win.
Yeah, you can celebrate that you got off the couch today. I mean,
Exactly.
if you're in like deep depression, just in a bad place, and you just maybe haven't even left your house for a month, and you step outside today, celebrate it. That's huge. And the little things are the big things, right? It's the
Yeah.
little choices, it's the micro choices that we make every day. And it's the habits and the behaviors that we choose to live through every day that create our lives. And so we should, we celebrate maybe a birthday or Christmas or something like that, right? A holiday. But yeah, celebrate. I love that you said that. We got to celebrate the little things because it's the little things that really, it's the little things that shape our lives for sure.
Oh yeah. That,
And
to me,
the celebration doesn't need to be massive and expensive and all the things. It can be like, just take a moment to like, oh, you did it. I love you. Just tell yourself you love you. Just look in the
yeah.
mirror and say, I love you.
Love you and pat yourself on your back, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can hardly do that because my shoulders are so bad anymore. But pat
Go
yourself on
here
the
with the heart.
shoulder, right? Or pat yourself on the heart. And
Yeah.
I love what you just said. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Great job. And
Yeah.
see, I can feel my emotions kicking up because that takes you so far,
So
so
far.
freaking far. When you can look at yourself in the mirror, and I mean literally eye to eye contact and say, I love you, that starts changing your life in so many different ways. And I've shared real, I want to share this again, but I've shared it a couple times on the show. I went to a coaching thing and our homework was we had 7 affirmations and we had to memorize these affirmations and we had to look at ourselves square in the eye and say each affirmation every single day. Try to do it at least 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, if we could, or just morning and night, whenever we got home. And then we had to share that experience at our next meeting a week later. My ego still at that time, and this was probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my ego was like, I've been doing this shit for the last 5 years. I got this. And I went home and I started doing it. And it took me a few days to realize I didn't.
Mm,
Every time, Tina, every time I went to go say one of those affirmations, I looked away. And then I'd come back
yeah.
and look at myself. And then I'd
Yeah.
start saying the affirmation and look away. And I'm like, I don't believe it. Because if I believed it, I'd be looking at myself still. I'm looking
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
That taught me such a valuable lesson. So again, just that little thing when I finally could look at myself and say those, that was a celebration for me. That was a win for me. And
Yeah.
just a suggestion, a word of advice for people too. Don't ever think you have it. You've heard Tina say many, many times, you've heard me say on the show many times, there is no finish line when it comes to working on yourself. Because I tell you what, I've tested it. I've
Oh,
tested it
yeah.
many
And the
times.
universe will give you a little big slap.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And sometimes it'll slap you upside the head and it
Yeah,
hurts. And you're
it
going,
hurts.
okay, okay, I got it.
Yeah,
I still got a long ways to go.
yeah,
I'm still going to
yeah.
be on this journey until God calls me home.
Until you, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Amen.
a spiral too, right? And it's a spiral. So I like to, so we're coming around and, leveling up if you want to use those words. And you might go through something and think you've uncovered all the layers, peel back all the layers, and then you come back around, you're like, oh my gosh, there's more.
Yeah.
But you raised up on the spiral a little bit, so you have a little bit different perspective. So even if you're unwind, if something comes up again that's the same, re-examine it because you'll get different answers and you'll get different clues than you did before.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, when you just said that, I picture I picture as a little kid going down one of those
Oh
spiral
yeah,
slides
those
and going,
slides.
they're just trying to brace themselves. They got their feet out and their hands out, and they're just stuck like shit. I'm going too fast.
That's kind of what this journey feels like, right?
It does. It does. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so
You know,
fun.
this has been an amazing show. We've gone way past, well, not way past an hour. We've gone past the hour, which is fine with me. It doesn't really matter. I don't care. Love the conversation. And I want to give you an opportunity too, to let our audience know, our listeners know, you talk about the human design. So you are the founder of it's the sovereign soul, right? Did I say
Yep.
that correct? So let
Yep.
listeners know a little bit more about that and some of the work that you're doing and how they can find you.
Yeah, so the sovereign soul, so it's all, we're talking about the key to the kingdom and sovereignty, right? Autonomy and sovereignty, coming back home to ourselves and taking charge of our own lives and creating our own lives. We are the creators of our own lives. And so that's where um and also that's part of my human design. And I didn't know this until later. I named the company like 2 years ago. And then I looked back at my chart the other day or a couple months ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my thing to speak about sovereignty. I didn't. So anyway, so the sovereign soul. So I do human design readings and I also do coaching. And so the way I do coaching a little, well, maybe not different, but I incorporate the human design into the coaching. And so we dive into your human design chart. And then with the coaching, we really can create some goals and we can build your life around your energy type, and then we can create the goals and the life that you want to create based on who you are and your natural pure humanness. And so then we work together to actually make that happen. So we create, find the end result that you want, we reverse engineer it, and then we work together to get you in to the goals that you want to get to. And then we celebrate at the end. We celebrate. And so we put the plan together. I ask you how you're going to find support to make your goals happen. And then, especially with women and moms, tend to put everybody else first except themselves. And so we create a plan of how can you find support while you're working toward your goals. And so can you bring the kids in to help with laundry and the cleaning, or can, get a babysitter, or, things like this. Can your husband help a little bit more? We talk about these things, or the neighbor or a family member or something like that. And so it helps women ask for help because and I'm sure men too, sometimes we can be a little bit hyper independent and we just want to do it ourselves or not bother anybody and we forget to ask for help. And so,
Mostly for men, it's our ego, right? It's our ego
yeah.
kicking in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we find that support and then we celebrate at the end because you brought all these people together to make the goal happen. Now we celebrate with everybody. And it's super fun process to take people through. It's an amazing journey and I just love it. And so that's how I do my coaching. And then I have a 9-day free workshop starting next Monday, actually January 13th, called Destiny by Design. And so if anybody wants to sign up for that, they can find that at thesovereignsoul.co. And then right on my homepage, it says Destiny by Design. Click the Learn More button, and that will take you to the landing page with all the information. And it's a free 9-day course. Every day we'll meet every day for an hour at 11 on Zoom. So you can join in from anywhere. And I think I have on there for women, but men, you guys are invited too. Um, and so I ran that a couple months ago and it was beautiful in 9 days to see the transformation that happened. So that's free. That's happening January 13th to the 21st. And then I have a podcast called the Sovereign Soul Human Design Podcast. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at I am Tina Leanne.
Okay. Well, I've got your website. If you could, Tina, if you can make sure that I get your Instagram and stuff so I can just copy and
Okay.
paste it. That way I know I'm
Sure.
not missing anything. And
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I put this down on the notes too. Gosh, it's Monday's the 13th though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's when the show is actually coming out is on Monday. Well, I'll still have it on there because the pre-show will come out either late Saturday or first thing on Sunday. So I'll make sure it's on the pre-show as
Okay.
well. Um,
Okay, yeah, thanks. And then people can join, late too. If they hear about it Tuesday, Wednesday, they can still join in and then catch the replays.
okay, so if I
Yeah.
if I put about January 13th to the 21st, Destiny by Design, free 9-day course, and if I give them that website, they can find it right there on your website,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
'cause I want to make sure I can help if any way I can or help promote, even if it brings one person and it's somebody
Yeah.
different to have that opportunity to go through this
Yeah.
amazing course.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. However, I know I've got a bunch of concrete pours next week. So is it something that's recorded or
It
it's a
is recorded.
is it recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded.
Okay.
Yeah. So sign up for it and then I'll send you the link for the replay page and then you can just watch the replays
Okay. Yeah, that would
as
be
time
awesome.
allows. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
good because a lot of my stuff has to be recorded for me to do things because the work's
Yeah.
so busy. But yeah.
Yep, yep. I know a lot of people are busy during the day. It's hard to time these things, right? Because some people have nighttime available, some people daytime, and then there's time zones. And so, yeah, that's so it'll be recorded and then I'll leave it up for a week after the event ends. And then so hopefully everybody, it's a win for everyone,
It's
hopefully.
a win for every, I bet it will be. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So, final words. Is there anything that you feel needs to be shared to our listeners right now? Something that's, I don't know, something inside that could be powerful for somebody. I mean, we talked about so many powerful things in this episode. I mean, a lot of stuff, but is there just anything that you're feeling in your gut?
Yeah. Give yourself some grace.
Love it.
Yeah, we can be really hard on ourselves, right? And we can be our own worst enemies. And we can really shame ourselves with words and actions. And, we can really take a lot of life out of ourselves by being hard on ourselves. And just give yourself some grace. Know that you're doing the best you can with what you have right now. And one little micro choice change each day will lead you on a whole different trajectory. So if any of your listeners are in a space of transformation right now or wanting to start transforming in some way, it doesn't have to be a rip the Band-Aid off situation. It
Yeah.
can be a step by step by step and give yourself some grace and love yourself along the way.
Enjoy that journey, right?
Yeah. Because it's till you die.
Yeah.
There's no race. There's no race to get anywhere.
There is no race, and it took a journey to get us in the spot we're at in our life right now.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, and a lot of times it's on the negative side. So it takes time to get ourselves back
Yep.
to the other one. So be
Yep.
patient with yourself and don't allow yourself to get discouraged. And doesn't matter if you move 1 inch forward, you're forward.
You're forward and ask people for help and reach out to people. So, yeah, lean on people. People want to help.
Yep,
So, yeah,
absolutely.
don't ever
Well,
feel like a
there's there's two right here, and I'm not wanting to pat myself on the back, but again, there's two people right here that love reaching out and helping other individuals, and
Yeah.
I have people who help me, right?
Yes.
I'm not on this alone either. I'm not like, oh, I got this, because I don't. I still have people that I reach out to help me along my journey, especially when I'm really confused. And I've just been blessed to be surrounded by so many amazing people like yourself and so many others that I know all I got to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, I need your ear right now. I'm kind of
Yep.
struggling with this. What would you suggest? Because it's people who are there who want nothing but the best for you. And we're all traveling this same road, whether we want to believe it or not. We're
Yes,
all,
we are all together,
all
hand
together.
in hand.
Yeah.
Energetically, we're hand holding each other along. We're walking the path together.
Yes, we
So
are.
yeah.
Well, Tina, again, thank you so much. I mean, this has been an amazing show. I'm so glad that you had the time to be here, and I'm looking forward to being a guest on your show.
I know, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I am definitely excited, especially after, I mean, gosh, just the energy with us today was just amazing. It
Yeah.
was just great. So again, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate you. I love and respect, what you're doing and getting out there and helping as many people as you can. And all of us men need a lot of help, but also however, I know there's a lot of women out there that are stuck, and I know you've gone in that journey, and that's what you're doing now. That's your new why, is to help people on their journey. And as we're helping other individuals, in all reality, we're also helping ourselves in our journey
We're
and all
growing
that.
more, yeah, ourselves in that for sure. And that's why it's hand in hand, right?
Yep.
Because we're never done. And yeah, we're never done. And I always feel like we're the teacher and the student. We're the coach and we're the mentor and the mentee, always, all the time. I feel like even, when I'm coaching people, sometimes I feel like I needed to hear what I just said, or most of the time I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find
So
yourself going, did I really just say that? That was great.
yeah, like, oh gosh, I needed to hear that today.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fun and yeah, just I love it. It makes my heart sing. So yeah, thanks for having me here today, Al. I love
Absolutely.
appreciate everything you're doing too. It's amazing. And also just to celebrate you, um, for coming into your own voice. Like you said at the beginning, I did meet you when you were talking about your wife's story, your ex-wife's story. And
Yeah.
when you switched and you started talking about your story, I was like,
Yeah.
yes, that's where he needs to go. So
Yeah.
celebrating you for that because that takes a lot of courage.
Thank you. And I'm grateful that I was at that point in my life to where I could let my ego move off to the side and allow the person to get in my face and tell me that,
Mm,
right? Because it was somebody who's actually going to be coming back on the show, who hasn't been on for a couple years, that got in my face and pointed his finger at my face and said, this is what you need to do. And the old me, I would have had that wall up, even though I gave him permission to speak openly. I wouldn't have
yeah,
heard a word he said, because you're not going to talk to me that way, because this is who I am.
yeah,
So I'm grateful that I've grown enough to be able to let down that wall and listen to what that person had to say to me, because it helped me grow in so many flipping ways.
yeah, that's beautiful.
So,
That's beautiful. And
yeah,
not only did you hear it, but you acted on it too.
I acted on it. Yeah. Yep, definitely
Yeah.
acted on it. And that's been twice that's happened, even after I lost my job. Someone told me I wasn't trusted. I was known as a liar and a manipulator, and I called BS on it at first. And then I really sat down and did some soul searching. And this was back when I was a liar and a manipulator. I was people, if you knew who I was back then, you wouldn't have liked me, more than likely.
Hmm.
I had friends, but it's not like the friends I have today.
Yeah.
I can't believe I listened, but I think again that was God putting me on this new path,
Yeah.
right? I think He just
Right
picked
place,
me up
right
and
time.
said,
Yep.
"Here you go. This is your new journey." And I had no choice really but to listen and go, you know what? This is not the person I want to be. So
Yeah. That's
we could,
beautiful.
We can all change. It's
We
possible.
can. We
Doesn't matter
can. It just takes
what your age
courage.
is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Your age, none of it matters.
If it matters. Well, Tina, again, thank you so much, and thank you to all our listeners. And I want to say thank you to White Tree Medical. I'm still waiting for getting some of their information. They're one of our new sponsors here for the show. You guys are going to hear me talk a little bit more about them. They do amazing things to help individuals, and something I just learned about them just recently is they also can help people find sober livings and IOPs, which there I had no clue up until a couple of weeks ago meeting with them that they can do this. So again, thank you to all our listeners, man. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. You guys are the ones that's keeping this thing going. Thank you so much. And we're going to leave with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.